Most people who are having credit issues today will continue to have credit issues tomorrow without a major change. So at some point in time, if you know that you have credit issues, if you know you have debt problems, you have to just kind of have a sit down with yourself and say, what am I going to do about this? Number one, what are my goals? Where do I want to be in the next 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? When do I want to retire? Is retirement, is that a laughable thing, or do I have a plan? What am I going to do? So when it comes to people saying that they're going to do something about their debt, as a lender, unfortunately, I have to deny a lot of loans. I would say on average, if I have 10 applications, probably 4 or 5 of them I'm going to have to deny right off the bat. We're not even going past the fact that I've looked at your credit. There's something on there, and everybody leaves my office knowing what it is that they have to do to get their issue taken care of. Now, sometimes it might be, well, you've got $40,000 in medical debt that you need to do something with because your credit scores are too low. For the most part, people should be shooting to, at the very minimum, be at a 620 FICO score, but ideally we want to be at a 720 FICO score. So the higher the better for the FICO score, but unfortunately some people just aren't quite there. And so they need to have a game plan. What are they going to do to get themselves in position to be able to move forward and not have the stress, not have the sleepless nights, all of that stuff. So one possibility is to get a second job. You can get a second job, but here's the problem. Number one, aren't you tired after your first job? Think about it, seriously. You want to have a second job? Isn't life busy enough? If you've got kids, you know exactly what I mean. The idea of getting a second job, I had a second job when I was fresh out of college, but you know what? It would be impossible once you have kids. So, but I mean, anything's a possibility. But what are you going to do with that money if you do get a second job? Because aren't we kind of a microwave society? I want it now. I see we're a consumption society. I guarantee you a lot of people who that get the second job, they don't take that money and apply it towards their debt. You know what they do? They spend it. They spend it on things other than what they originally had intended. Not the things that they knew that they should be putting the money towards, but they just consume it. So if you do end up with a second job, make sure that you're actually applying the money towards your actual debt. I could make more money. Maybe I can go find a better paying job. That would be a good thing. You have to have a plan. If all of these things are not a possibility, if making more money is not a possibility, if reducing my spending to deal with the income that I have now, if I can't reduce my spending enough to where I can make a dent into my debt, I need to ask myself a question. Am I able to sleep at night? I think there's 3 tests as in terms of, bankruptcy is not an easy decision. The process is not too difficult as long as you're getting the right advice from a bankruptcy attorney, but the decision itself is not an easy one because people feel a moral obligation to paying back their creditors. I borrowed the money, I said I would pay it back, I'd feel horrible if I didn't. But there's a series of tests that I, over the years, have kind of felt that people should ask themselves. Okay, number one, am I pulling any money out of my retirement accounts? Am I pulling money out of my retirement accounts to pay my debts? If I'm doing that, drop everything, go see a bankruptcy attorney because you're making a huge mistake. You could probably keep all the money in your 401k, all the money in your IRA, keep all that money, file for bankruptcy, get rid of your debts, or at least most of your debts, depending on what your circumstances are, and keep all that money. Wouldn't that be a lot better than to what I usually see? Somebody extinguishes, they liquidate all the 401k, all the IRA, and then they say, I really need a solution. Do you have a bankruptcy attorney that you can refer me to? I wish you would have come to me 12 months ago with that question. So that's called exemption planning, and it's a very, very important part of bankruptcy. It's a very, very important part of recovery too, because as a credit expert and as a lender, I would say I would much rather see somebody have $50,000 in their 401k when they're eligible to buy again in, say, 2 years after a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, then they have no money at all, and now 2 years has passed and they don't, now they're trying to save up some money. And hopefully you can save up some money if your debts have been discharged, hopefully now with less expense, now you'll be able to save up some money. So that's one test. The other is, will you realistically pay this debt down in a 2-year period of time? Will you? I do so many different workshops. I do these financial recovery workshops, and I tell people, realistically, are you going to be better off in 2 years with the plan that you might implement as far as paying your debts down, will that take care of it? Well, most of the time people are in the same exact position 2 years later. So, and then lastly, it's really about across the board, what can I cut out of my life? What can I cut out of my life, and what am I bringing in as far as income? What is going out? And as a result, can I kind of earmark enough money to pay this debt down based on not increasing my income, but just the income that I have right now? Can I reduce spending enough so that I can start knocking that debt down? But that takes a lot of discipline. And frankly, I got to tell you, most consumers are not very disciplined. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's just reality. We are consumers, we consume things, we look for the path of least resistance, and we're just frankly not very good about being disciplined with our finances. So, leaves us to this consideration of, is bankruptcy the best answer? For some people it is. For some people it may not be. But it's definitely something to educate yourself about. It's something to get information about. It's something to get information about how it applies to you specifically, because you may not even qualify for bankruptcy, or at least not Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So get the answers to that in terms of what your circumstances are. How is it going to apply for you? And please do not raid your retirement account. If you need your retirement account to pay your debts, you definitely have an issue in hand, because guess who's going to take care of you at retirement? It's not going to be your bank. It's not going to be your credit card company. It's not going to be your mortgage company. You have to think about it. You have to make a decision sometimes and say, okay, who's going to take care of me and my family? When you pay your credit card bill, do they care? Do they care if you feed your family? I gotta tell you, you're just a number. They don't care if you pay if you can feed your family or not, as long as you pay them. But also think about it. How much interest have you paid in your lifetime? Sometimes you have to think about it. If you're morally against filing for bankruptcy, think about it. How much have I paid in my lifetime in interest to these lending institutions? Is maybe time for me to start thinking about me rather than somebody that doesn't really care about me and my family, and especially not my future necessarily. So, it's something that everybody needs to just boil down to their specifics.